Thank you. Well, welcome to January's Books and Beverages. It's my great pleasure to introduce Helen Brandom to you. Helen's been writing for many, many years. One or two anyway. She's pulling faces at me.
I wish I'd started earlier, actually, because I didn't really start until I should have started a bit earlier. Yes.
Oh, right.
Yes. But it was one of those things that you think, English was what I was good at school, and then I later thought, well, I'd like to be a writer, but I was put off for ages because I thought I couldn't think of plots. And then I thought, well, if I can't think of a plot, I could start a novel and think, well, what's it going to be about? What's the plot? And then my sister, Claire Druce, who is a writer, joined a course, signed up for a course, and persuaded me that I really should as well. So I did. And the first assignment was think of a story, a plot of, I don't know whether it was 250 words or whatever, with a twist ending. Well, I paid £129, so I did it. And I thought, oh yes, you just have to know that you can, and somebody's telling you to, and I did. And so I think it was about assignment 3 that was about script writing that I realised then that perhaps that's what I really want to do. So that's how I started. I never finished my course with Doris as my tutor.
Oh, right.
So, lovely lady, a lovely poet.
She's obviously got you. And script writing is interesting, isn't it? Because most people start with short stories or novels or things like that. But script writing is quite niche. And you've had a lot of success at script writing, haven't you?
I think that because I was a stage-struck teenager, I probably, words probably came to me because I thought one day I'll be doing this, when I wasn't. But yes. Dialogue I love, and sometimes I think, oh dear, this looks like a script when I look at the page, and I think, no, I need a bit more prose here, because I could get people talking to each other forever. So I did do quite a bit of. I was lucky in that I met a Coronation Street writer, and he, out of the blue, at a social evening one day, said, "Would you like me to read your work?" And I thought, well, that's a bit risky. And he did, and then he got back in touch with me and put me in touch with an agency which I joined and was with for quite a long time, one of the big ones, and then she died. Elizabeth Cree sadly died, and I don't know, it didn't go well for me with that agency after that, and so I then needed another agent. And that shows you how you have to try so very hard. I must have tried for months, sending out every week until I had one that asked for exclusivity for a fortnight, and I think, oh, this is it, I think I let her have it for months, and she was too busy in the end to take me on. But then the lady I'm with now for young adult took me on, and it was just, and that was Writing in the Sand,
right,
with Usborne. So she managed to sell it to Usborne. But she is young adult only, and I haven't gone off young adult, but I'm moving up to adults, you see.
Yes.
So
growing the novels.
Yes, growing the novel.
But you did write a lot more, didn't you? I mean, I think you wrote for Radio 4, didn't you?
Oh,
You've
yes.
written plays.
Yes, I wrote afternoon plays for Radio 4. Very, very proud to have had a one-woman play acted by Alison Steadman. Oh, so that was lovely.
Very popular.
That had lain in a drawer at the BBC for years, and then Owen O'Callaghan, a producer, was leaving the BBC and going to an independent company, and was clearing out a drawer and found, what's it called? Got to remember what it's called. Wind of Change.
Oh, right.
Yes. In the bottom of the drawer, started to read it and rather liked it, and thought, oh, I'll get to the end and see if I really like it, and he did, and got in touch.
Oh, lovely.
And so then along he arranged for Alison Steadman to do it, and yes, and then I had another one that I really liked was well, I really liked it. Hopefully other people did really like it. Called Sky High, about a block of flats that's about to be blown down, they say, but we would think of as being blown up. And the elderly couple in it actually didn't want to go, and they planned very, very cleverly that they wouldn't go, so that they did get their wish in the end to go up with it. And I had Elizabeth Spriggs, who I had twice in my writing life, and she was wonderful, sadly no longer with us. But I had Bernard Hepton to do the guy, the elderly man, and he said it was the first time he'd ever been asked to play a Cockney.
Oh, right.
Because, usually he was a German general or something like that.
Acting is acting. So, oh, excuse me. So did these? I'm interested now in the plays. So did they actually blow up with the block? Did you manage to get that in your?
Yes, managed to to get them to just go happily together. Yes. And another really very interesting thing that I think for me to do was a morning serial, which is quite funny how it came to be, because it took so long. I was asked, and I can't remember by whom, to come up with an idea for a morning serial, which is, every morning for 15 minutes. It's actually about 11 minutes on the 5 occasions. So I remember standing at the sink, I think, what do I know about? And looked out at the garden, and I think, oh yes, I know enough about gardening.
Yes.
You don't have to know a lot about anything to imagine it.
Yes.
So I came up with this idea of a village where each garden hopes to win the glass rose bowl. And so I sent it in to somebody, yes, can't remember what her name is now, but Raphael. Anyway, lovely lady. And she got back to me, she said, well, we like this very much, but we think that the repeat would perhaps be too near to the archers in the evening.
Oh.
So I thought, well, she said, but try again, offer it again next year. And I thought, well, the archers is still going to be there next year. What's the difference? But I did. I was patient and did other things in between and sent it off reminded her the next year. And she said, oh, we do like it. We would like to do it. But we have a problem. Alan Titchmarsh is coming into the archers and he's going to judge the gardens. I thought, oh no. She said, but offer it again. And the next year it got on.
Finally got on.
So it got on. So I had, on the 5 days, I had Elizabeth Spriggs for the first one, Sue Jameson, Philip Jackson, Leslie Manville, and John Wood. First and last are both now gone, but the ones in between are very much all there. And I remember I had a lovely time with each of them, but I didn't see a lot of Leslie Manville because she was Mrs. Coulter in his Dark Materials at the Old Vic, and she had to rush off after she'd done my bit, Yeah.
So very grand, isn't it?
Very grand.
Old Vic. Woo.
Oh, I know.
Serious stuff.
Yes, no, but she's lovely. Yes.
And you also had success, didn't you, with a play locally, wasn't it? The North Yorkshire, was it?
A bit of Royal Albert.
That's the one.
Yes, that's my only stage play my only stage play that's been produced. It's a black comedy, and I am proud to say that it does win, and it won a big silver cup like that for the Nidderdale Drama Festival.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
The idea from that came. I was giving my mum a home perm.
Oh, right.
And as I was, doing all the stuff, I said, oh, better open the window. I don't want you popping your clogs from the fumes.
Oh, yes.
I thought, God, what a funny idea. And when I went to bed that night, I just wrote and wrote and wrote, because it was there. It was 2 elderly sisters. There's a good sister and a bad sister. And the good sister is doing the perm, but sadly, the old lady dies. And, well, they have to finish it, because she wasn't neutralised. And they do with the good sister is actually having an affair with bad sister's husband, because he's nice and she's nice. And it's a play where the scenes are, well, it's a scene where showing you two houses at the same time.
Oh, right,
It's
yes.
actually quite easy to do. And it starts off with a record of Tom Jones singing It's Not Unusual, and somebody vacuuming, and so it's quite lively. And then it was chosen as one of the best 6 scripts in a centenary year of the National Amateur Dramatic Drama Society. I can't remember the actual name, and they chose that as one of them, and that was lovely. And it got performed in Croydon at the Ashcroft Theatre and at Buxton at the Opera House.
Wow.
But it was, it's a question of, people think that your idea will be pinched, but it was. And I was listening to an afternoon play one day, and I thought, I could have written that. I didn't mean that I could have written that better, but I thought, that's my sort of writing. And they were, I don't know, they got 3 corpses in the hallway.
As you do.
As you do. And then there was a line that was so mine. Their line was, well, have you got a piece of haddock? And my line, which I thought was funnier, was, well, have you got a piece of liver? And I thought, no, this is too much. And I couldn't, took me ages to think, how could this have happened? So I went to my box where I kept everything to do with the bit of Royal Albert, looked in there, looked at the programme for the day it had been produced, I can't remember where, somewhere up here in the north, and found that a really well-known radio writer, his play had been on just after mine. And I don't for a minute think he did it intentionally. I think it was just something that, fed into him and that he regurgitated, unfortunately. And a producer has since said to me, you should have done something about it, you really should. And I never did.
I think it's really difficult, isn't it? Because they say there's only 3 plots, and you can argue with, 3 basic plots.
Yes.
And when you write something, you think, oh, that's all mine, isn't it?
Yes.
And then sometimes you read something and think, well, that's not terribly far away of what I've done.
No.
And I'm sure there's a lot of, as you say, either unconscious, just picking things up and then thinking it's yours, or
yes.
It's difficult, isn't it?
I don't think I want to meet him. But, no. So that was an experience. But it was a jolly good experience for the play. I haven't managed to get it published, which is extraordinary. I mean, that makes me sound so boastful.
No,
but it's silly, because if somebody published it, they could be making a bit of money out of it. Well, so could I. But I mean, I belonged to a group that was originally called Yorkshire Playwrights and is now called Script Yorkshire. And my mind's going blank for a moment.
No, I think you raise a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because you have had agents in the past. You have been published by a very big publishing house, Osborne.
Yes.
But I think for independent authors, it is a real. Actually, getting an agent seems to be so difficult.
Yes.
Certainly, amateur writers, if I can call myself that, like myself, I've never even considered looking for an agent because it's just too difficult.
Yes. I think really the thing to do is to send something off every week. You've got the Artists and Writers yearbook there. You've got a good letter, send it off. It probably will be rejected, but just keep at it. I think I probably was sending off for about 18 months before I got my young adult agent. And then I was lucky to do some television work. The very first thing I did was a couple of episodes of a late night thing called Revelations, which was about a naughty bishop and all his naughty family. They were all wrong in some way or another.
I missed that one.
I think it was quite a cult thing with some students, and that was great. And Russell T Davies was very, he was a script editor on that, so that shows you it's rather a long time ago, because I mean he's Russell T Davies, is, you know. So that was, I so much enjoyed that. I couldn't believe that I was actually there at Granada at a meet, at, you know,
as the writer.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't. What should I wear to go to something like that? And I remember probably looking a bit too posh, and think, you know, I should have. Well, Sally Wainwright wrote the first episode of this particular series.
Oh, wow.
And she always just had a great pack on her back with all her stuff in and looked dead casual. And I think, looking back, I got a little jacket on, and I probably shouldn't have been wearing a little jacket, you know.
Harrogate's finest, what can we say?
But I did, and I did quite a lot for them, for Granada, because although you may not have stuff on, writers might not have stuff on all the time, if you're lucky, you get asked to do treatments. And I mean, I did a treatment for Fox in America, adapting Enid Blyton's Secret 7 with your ideas of what it would be if you wrote them today. Things that never see the light of day, but you get your money, you know, which is lovely. But what I really loved, I was so lucky to get the they were commissioning for 50-minute audio cassettes for well-known Coronation Street cast. I was so lucky. I got Bill Roach, Ken Barlow,
yes.
And never know whether Rita's had so many husbands. I call her Rita Sullivan, but I mean she might have been Rita Fairclough. But anyway, that was lovely. I was asked to explain why Rita had never had a baby, and so I gave her a pretty awful abortion, and she was lovely to write for. And it's such a pleasure to have been a whole day with her, because that's what's so lovely, is that you can go to the recording. Well, you have to be, in case you have to adjust something.
Yes.
And she was a very experienced radio actress. She'd done it long before she did anything with Coronation Street, so that was lovely. Then Ken Barlow, completely different kettle of fish, very nervous because he'd never done radio. And so it was me being the calming influence on him. But he was fascinating because he's very, very spiritual.
Oh, right.
And so we're all up there, all meeting and having a lovely time when it all happens.
Oh, right.
And by the time I think they said, take him out of the street. Take him out of the street for a weekend. That's all I knew. So I took him to Paris with a contingent of sixth formers, who all had to remember to take what they needed, personal stuff, but even, you know, their specs and all this sort of thing. And that was great. I really enjoyed it, doing this with him. He was all the way through. I was having to bring him back to Deirdre, because in the end he was really going to have to come back to Deirdre. There's no doubt about that. But at the point where I picked him up in the story, he had, up until that moment, 23 women. So,
good grief.
But Deirdre was always going to be the one in the end, you know. So yes, that I loved, and he was such a pleasure to be with. But I say, it was fascinating because we were all philosophically discussing what happens up there or doesn't. In and around the recording, you know.
And his 23 women.
And his 23 women. He didn't mention... Well, of course, it is the act.
It's the actor, yes, of course. It's the part, isn't it? Moving on to your new book, which is, I have read, and it's lovely. Where did the idea come from?
Well, I think I have an idea about where ideas come from. It's taken me some time to come up with it. But that the idea is that chance favours the prepared mind. So, as a writer, you're open to what's going on around you,
Yes.
anything unusual, anything just normal, just ordinary. And I think it was probably because LGBT was so much in the news,
Yeah.
and accepted and fine for girls, for women, lovely in fact. And don't know this, it sort of came into me that what must it have been like in the days when it wasn't all right, unless you were a member of the Bloomsbury group or whatever, and you could do what you liked.
Well,
but
yes.
for ordinary, working class, middle class, ordinary people, it wasn't on. I mean, I knew plenty of male gay men when I was quite young. Didn't seem weird at all, except that it was still illegal probably.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it came to me about girls. Is it one stage up from having a crush at school? I didn't ever have a crush on another girl at school, and I always thought perhaps there was something wrong with me that I didn't. That I thought I can read.
Well, I never had one, so there's two
Oh,
of
good.
us that way. But yes, I have to say that was one thing when I was reading your book. Was it a crush? Then the more I read about it, and I thought, no, it doesn't sound, because crushes tend to be at one remove, isn't it?
Yes.
The object of adoration is out there, but you don't actually want to be
anywhere
anywhere close.
No,
do you?
no. So it just, quite a lot of that comes from real life. I wasn't actually there in the Blitz. Well, I couldn't remember it. Any historical stuff could have got from my mother.
Yes.
My father was away. He was in the 8th Army in the Intelligence Corps. But there was such a lot that came from my mother, so I didn't need the historical stuff wasn't a problem at all. And so I started to write. But the other experience I had, which is the mundane stuff, is that I did work for a year in an haute couture workshop in an attic opposite Harrods in London. So I knew Harrods very well because that's where I spent walking around in my lunch times. So there's a lot there that is from real life, and I don't think an haute couture workshop's probably changed very much from that day to this. A bound buttonhole is still a bound buttonhole, I think.
I must admit, when I was reading and you were talking about your department store, and I'm thinking of the department stores in my youth, which were very old-fashioned. They always had a man with the lift, didn't they?
Yes.
Very,
my Gerald, yes.
Yes, your Gerald.
Yes.
An elderly gentleman of some sort, wasn't it? Ex-army.
Yes, mine was the one-armed one.
Yes, but they often had sort of bits missing or
yes.
or that,
yes.
didn't they? And they were terribly posh, and they used to have cafes where you went and had afternoon tea.
Oh,
but I
yes.
hadn't realised, and I don't know if that's true to life or you running two things together, that they actually would alter clothes and do things or make clothes for you. Is that often, did that happen?
No, not on the whole, no. Yes, you could have something made for you, but you wouldn't take alterations in. I mean, that was something that I had Miss Drew do us at home.
Yes, that's right,
has
yes.
her alterations done, yes.
But the idea of going to a department store to get your dress
Yes.
or your
Yes.
whatever made for you,
Yes.
I hadn't realised that
No.
department stores did
Well,
that.
there is artist licence here,
Of course.
But and that department store that I called Fulmer's is actually Grant's of Croydon.
I did wonder whether Roydon was Croydon.
Croydon is Croydon. Yes. Croydon is very, very different in 1940 compared with what it is today. Today, I think it's a centre in this country. It's a centre of the insurance world. Certainly based on in Croydon, and I think there are people who read it who would recognise parts of it. Yes.
And obviously a place that you know very well.
Yes. I went to school in Croydon. Yes.
I thought I recognised the connection. Is this your first LGBT novel?
Yes.
So did that feel a bit different, writing rather than a straightforward, well, I say straightforward, but what you think of sort of romantic writing?
Yes. I thought, really, this is romance between two women instead of between a man and a woman. I mean, it can't be very different. Large physical differences, of course, but probably so much easier for a girl who hasn't had any experience like that, as she was so totally inexperienced, Connie.
Yes. And that's something I picked up. In the book, Connie is only 17.
Yes.
It is a young adult novel,
Yes, yes.
so it's obviously for that age group.
Well, no, I'm calling it.
Well,
I think I'm calling it. There is this new genre, new adult.
Oh.
Yes. So that's a bit more than young
Do
adult.
we become old adults then?
I don't know. That happens too quickly anyway. Let's talk about that.
Well, yeah, tell me. So is that sort of... No, just I was curious because Connie is only 17.
Yes, yes.
She's already engaged to her David, who's a Spitfire pilot.
Yes.
Was that normal for the time to be engaged at such an early age?
Yes, I think so, because I mean, not then, but 10 years later, I was engaged at 18, and many of my friends were. In a way, there's a certain stratum of society where you thought, how am I going to get out of this? And there was only one way out, which was marriage.
Yes.
And you've got to get engaged first before you can get married. And usually you were engaged for 2 or 3 years. I wasn't engaged for that long, but usually it was, got the ring, then you've got your bottom drawer where you save all this stuff, all the sheets and towels and lemon squeezers and whatever, for years until the time comes when the big day when your parents say, yes, we can afford to have a wedding. So I think, no, not unusual.
Yes.
I don't think. No.
I'm laughing because I actually got engaged and married when I was 19, so I was really mature.
Yes. Oh, even better than me.
Yeah. So, but
Yes.
But it's so different, I think, from now, and that's the historical bit, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Girls are rarely getting engaged. At such a young age, they're not getting married.
No. No. One of my younger son, they were together for years and years and years, from when she was 15, and he brought her home, and I thought, oh my God, a kindred spirit. Oh, but it's too early. She's only 15. And they are still as in love as they were the day they met, and she's in her 50s now.
That's lovely.
So, it can happen.
It can, of course it can. I'm still on the first husband, but there you go.
Yes, I only had one.
That's quite enough. So you said that you sort of took a lot of your historical knowledge from your mother, which was interesting. So did you have to do any research, or was it pretty much?
No, I had to do. I didn't actually even have to do the aircraft research, because this illustration, is by Paul Monteagle, and it took him several months, and he is an aircraft specialist. In fact, Peter Jackson, the film producer, has a collection of Paul's work, especially aircraft work, at his house in New Zealand.
Oh, right.
And nobody can get away with anything that Paul has said is okay. In fact, in the beginning, I had written about hurricane pilots, because I thought, yes. And they came from Kenley, which was near Croydon, is near Croydon. And then before I talked to Paul about the actual aircraft, I thought, no, I think it's got to be Spitfires. Spitfires there's glamour about a Spitfire.
Yeah, Hurricanes were very much the workhorses, weren't they?
They had more success in shooting down our enemy than the Spitfire did, but the Spitfire, they were the glamour boys.
Yes.
So I switched it to Spitfires, and then it took Paul some research to find out that there was a certain time when Spitfires did come out of Kenley, and so we've got, if anybody questions it, we've got the actual date and the number on the plane that came out. So yes,
that's very impressive.
Yes.
Oh dear. So is there another book in the offing about Connie and Kath?
No.
Is that it?
I think that's it. I I think I'll leave them where they are. Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to go further. I think no.
They're done. They're parked.
Yes, they're parked. Yes, we park them and think about them. Yes.
So what's your next writing project then?
It's something working title is Good Days, Bad Days. I've moved forward a decade, or just more than a decade, into 1952, into a Yorkshire village with groups of people and writing about each of them. There's nobody that it really stems from, except that there is a character who would go on and on, if I am able to go on and on, who is the village GP.
Oh, right,
It's fairly unusual to have a female one, but it's not impossible.
Not at all. I've known GPs
at that time.
Yes.
But there's a couple who would go through everything. They're a teenage couple, very much in love, and it's what it's like to be in love at 16, 17, when it's so frowned upon to do anything. I mean, holding hands, you didn't want anybody to see you holding hands until you got out of sight into the woods, or, you know, when it was dark. And so it's proved difficult, because what I wanted to do and what I have done, and may not be acceptable, I don't know, is that things happen to people on the same day, so that there might be 3 different groups of people. When I say groups, it might be a singleton, it might be 2, it might be 3. And their own little drama is being played out. I mean, everybody has a secret.
Yes. It almost sounds like your play with the gardens, doesn't it?
Yes.
But as a fictional, a novel rather than a
that's exactly.
drama.
Yes, I hadn't thought of that. Thank you.
Okay. But it's that sort of, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it's rare that you can keep interest with just one character, isn't
Yes.
it? It's the side dramas that make the book more rich.
Because I think that the whole book would probably take 2 months in time, if that.
Yes, what the time scale.
The time scale. And I'm working hard at the moment with the end, because I want to draw the pieces together. Some people I can just lose, because, you know, it's okay to lose them, because one of them's gone back to London and you see him go. But some are staying. But if there is another book, it's got to be another set of people from the village, which to find the people would be easy enough. It's to find the thing for them that they are doing or hiding or are very dramatic about.
Yes.
Not a lot of high drama. No, there is the occasional bit of high drama.
I suppose the difficulty is that if you have a group of people, they've all got to have their own bit of high drama, isn't it?
Yes, they have.
It's got to be original rather than they all suffer the same events.
They're obviously all different. I spend my young pair off. They love to go to the pictures, and they go to see The Quiet Man.
Oh, right.
And of course, that was a huge film at that time. So I got it out and watched it, and I was like, this is ridiculous.
It hasn't aged well then.
Well, I think it's ridiculous, but it was hugely successful at the time. And it doesn't work today, you know.
It's like Brief Encounter, one of the great romantic...
Oh, that's great. I bring that in as something that's, Brief Encounter.
Yes, which is a wonderful film, isn't it?
Oh, I still think it's...
But if you watch it today, you think, gosh, it's also old-fashioned.
I know, but I love it. I still think it's the best film ever made. I really do. I absolutely love it. And I used to read some books that were the Claudia books when I was about 16. And I briefly brought that in, because my heroine compares what's happening to what happened in the Claudia books.
Oh, right.
And I thought, for ages, I couldn't even remember the name Claudia. and let alone remember the name of the writer. And then one day it came to me, Rose, her name's Rose. Then it came to me again, Rose Franken. Looked it up, managed to buy a book, a Claudia book.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, yes. And it's quite dense, it, you know, for late teenagers to be reading. Because I think once I'd finished with Sue Barton, Student Nurse, I was on to, what was the one about the devil?
Was it Dennis Wheatley?
Yes, Dennis Wheatley, yes.
Very lurid.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, before we go further into disreputable book reading, and I could probably rustle up a few from my teenage years, thank you. That's been really great.
Oh, it's lovely to talk to you.
And lovely to talk to you.
Yes, thank you very much indeed.
Not at all.
It's been a lovely time. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.